Our next guest, I'm very honored to have on the show this morning. He's sometimes called the father of the modern-day prophecy movement. He's a best-selling author, Bible teacher. 90% of what I've learned about Bible prophecy, I've learned from this man's books and tapes. He is the author of the book, The Late Great Planet Earth. It was published in 1970, became the best-selling book of the decade. He's author of 11 books with combined world sales of over 35 million. He's known around the world. He's heard weekly Thursday nights, I believe, at 7:30 Central Time on the Trinity Broadcasting Network on his International Intelligence Briefing, and we are honored, very honored, to have with us on the Real Radio Morning Show, Mr. Hal Lindsey. Hello, Hal. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm just fine. I'm honored to be on your show. Haven't been able to speak in Mississippi in a long time.
Well, I understand you're going to be here in Newport, I think, later in the year, right?
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, before we get into your book, The Everlasting Hatred, The Roots of Jihad, I understand you were a riverboat captain at one point.
Yes, I was, below New Orleans.
Okay, so did you come up Vicksburg way?
I have been as far as Vicksburg, yes, but normally I would operate down around Buras and in Venice. I was a tugboat captain and at that time and was working for the California Oil Company. We were leased to them.
Well, that's great. Well, let's get right into it. I have got a copy of your book, and I have nowhere near being through with it. I am fascinated, as so many people are, and we talk about the end times prophecy and everything that's gone on in the last year or so in relation to Israel. And your book, The Everlasting Hatred, The Roots of Jihad, if you will, allow me to read a couple of quotes right here at Chapter 1. This is from Joseph DeCourcy of the Intelligence Digest. It says, over the rest of this decade, the divide between radical Islam and the industrial democracies will become the most destabilizing factor in world affairs. Benjamin Netanyahu, former Prime Minister of Israel, says although it's talking about terrorist organizations, separate parts may have local objectives and take part in local conflicts. The main motivation driving the terror network in an anti-Western hostility that seeks to achieve nothing less than a reversal of history. It seeks to roll back the West and install an extremist form of Islam as the dominant power in the world. What is at stake today is nothing less than the survival of our civilization. Those are pretty strong words.
They really are, and the interesting thing is that most people in the West are oblivious to it, that they do not realize that we are at war and that we're in great danger.
Now, are we in? When you say in war, who are the factors involved in this war?
There are 1.3 billion Muslims in the world today, and it's conservatively estimated that 10% of that 1.3 billion are Muslim fundamentalists. And the Muslim fundamentalists are at war with a Judeo-Christian civilization. Not just the United States, but we're the main target, of course, but with all of Judeo-Christian civilization, which is basically the culture of the West. And they are determined to reverse our control of history, and they're determined to replace it with an Islamic world order. And, you know, the thing is, we've never faced an enemy like this. In World War II, we faced the Japanese kamikazes, and they gave us quite a problem.
Right.
But they were nothing compared to the Islamic fundamentalists who are motivated by intense religious belief that if they sacrifice their life, they go immediately to paradise and are given 72 virgins along with every conceivable thing their flesh might desire. So we haven't been up against something as formidable as this. If you take 10%, and it's a growing number all the time, if you take that number, it turns out that of 1.3 billion, it's 130 million people. And these are not just in the Middle East. These are scattered all over the world. So they make a formidable enemy, and they can so disrupt a country that it can falter economically.
Is there such thing, when you talk about Muslim fundamentalists, is there a separation? Or, I mean, are there good Muslims, bad Muslims, or are we talking about the entire faith in a religion of itself?
That's a very good question. And here again, in my book, I seek to show that, what we in the West term a good Muslim, one who is not hostile toward the West, one is not trying to fight and overthrow the West. If we look at those, according to the Quran, those are not good Muslims. They may be good in our eyes, but they're not good Muslims.
Yeah.
The more a Muslim gets serious about the Quran, the more he seeks to follow the example of Muhammad, the more he's going to become an Islamic fundamentalist. And it gets right back, for instance, we talk about fundamental Christians.
Right.
Well, what is a fundamental Christian? He is one who basically believes and seeks to put into action a literal understanding of the Bible.
Right.
And that's exactly what an Islamic fundamentalist does. He seeks to put into action what the Quran actually says.
Is there, going back to the background of this, there may be someone, and we're a Christian station with secular programming, and the morning show is definitely Christian. But for some people who may not know the background of this situation, it goes back to Abraham, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. That's why I call it the everlasting hatred.
Mm-hmm.
My book, like other books do not do, I go back into pre-Islamic history. And by the way, it's very difficult to find the history of the Arab people. But I go back to the tents of Abraham and show, beginning with Isaac's half-brother Ishmael, who hated his brother because he felt he got cheated out of his birthright.
Mm-hmm.
There began to develop a hatred toward the descendants of Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They just feel that they got cheated. And then, of course, another part that founded the Arab race, other than Ishmael, is also the twin brother of Jacob, Esau, that became endemic to the race. And, of course, this hatred, Indonesia is one of the biggest Islamic populations in any country in the world today. And most of them have not even seen a Jew, but they hate them because it's part of the Quran.
They've been taught that.
Yeah, they've been taught it by their religion.
Is that the reason you think that they have such a hatred for the United States and Americans? It's because of our history of supporting Israel?
Well, that is, of course, one of the main reasons, but I think it needs to be clearly understood, and I seek to bring this out in my new book, The Everlasting Hatred, and that is this, that no other religion has been so tied to the culture in which it was born than Islam.
I believe it.
It absolutely enshrined the 7th century Arab Peninsula culture into the religion. And so anyone who tries to introduce a different culture becomes a threat to the Muslim religion. So the United States is not hated only because we support Israel, but because they see our Western Judeo-Christian-based culture as a direct threat to their religion, because it stands in direct opposition to the 7th century Arab culture around which that religion was built, because they have no concept of democracy. For instance, you look at all of the Muslim nations in the world today, there are no democracies.
True.
They were built around the concept of a sheikh being the head of the tribe and a benevolent dictator. So if the person wasn't benevolent, they were in trouble.
I've used the term before, and it may be because of my own ignorance, that Islam is a perverted religion, and I don't mean that in the sexual sense.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate statement?
To tell you the truth, where did it come from? I mean, it came from an angel who appeared to Muhammad.
Right.
And even Muhammad thought it was a demon at times until, later on. But he called the angel Jibril, which is Arabic for Gabriel. Mm-hmm. And the whole religion was revealed to Muhammad through this angel. And I believe, of course, it was the angel of light. The reason is because what he revealed is contrary to what the God of the Bible revealed in his Word.
I agree.
So I believe that it is a religion that was very much founded along the same lines the Mormon religion was the same pattern of how the Mormon religion was.
Exactly.
revealed.
I agree. What is the mindset? How do these Islamic radical, these fundamentalists, these terrorists, how do they arrive at the mindset that they are, to the sense that they can give their own lives for what they feel is a righteous cause?
Well, if you look at the Quran, you'll find there is no assurance of forgiveness or salvation. For instance, there's no basis for forgiveness of sin in the Quran. It's your relationship to this impersonal God they call Allah is based upon doing good deeds, but there's never any assurance that you make it. There's only one thing where you're guaranteed that you're going to make it and go to paradise, and that's to die fighting for the cause of Allah. So a martyr is the only one who has any assurance of paradise.
Franklin Graham, and I'm sure you've know of his book, The Name, and I've seen him on Fox Television recently.
Yes.
Has come under a lot of fire because of some statements along the same lines of what we're talking right now, that Allah, as believed in Islam, is not the true God, is not the same as Jehovah God. And that's part of their perversion of their religion.
It surely is, and of course that's the heart and center of it. I believe he's the angel of light that 2 Corinthians talks about, who's Satan himself.
I agree.
And, you can't have truth coming out of it. How do we know whether it's the God of the Bible or not? We have to go by the fact of what the Quran says. And what the Quran reveals about Allah is totally contrary to what the Bible says about God.
Right.
And all through the Quran, it says God never had a son. And the very the heart and center of Islam, their basic statement of faith says, there's no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his prophet.
And Muhammad didn't die for the sins of all mankind.
Oh, no. In fact, there's no concept of a substitutionary death for sin.
Exactly.
In fact, the Allah of the Quran doesn't reveal himself in characteristics and attributes that man can relate to. He's an impersonal God.
In today's, with everything that's gone on, especially in the last year, and we quoted Benjamin Netanyahu a while ago, that saying that one of the greatest threats to the survival of civilization is Islam, and I'm sure you agree with that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And why is that?
As a matter of fact, I said in 1992, after the Soviet Union fell, that with the fall of the Soviet Union, the greatest threat to world peace is now fundamental Islam. And you could see it growing. In fact, the biggest mistake the United States has ever made in foreign policy was to stand by and let the Shah fall in 1979 in Iran.
I agree.
And let the Ayatollah Khomeini come back from Paris and take over Iran. That was the beginning of the Islamic fundamentalist revival.
That's true.
And I said then, and I say even more passionately today, Iran is the most dangerous nation in the world. They're the ones that are masterminding this whole terrorist network of Islamic fundamentalism.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I want to say thank you also to America, One Nation Under God. You and your ministry allowed us to re-air those two segments that were on the International Intelligence Briefing, and I and a lot of our listeners agree that it was just absolutely right on target and the best commentary and explanation that we could have seen. You touched on a subject there that is really big in my studies and what I talk about, and that's tolerance. How have we got to the point in the United States especially, and across the world too in certain sectors, that we have become so tolerant to the point that we are gullibly accepting just everything that comes down the pike, in particularly what we're discussing here in the religion of Islam.
Yeah, tolerance, I think, today is called political correctness.
True.
And I've said many times that the epitaph over the United States when it's destroyed is going to be, they were politically correct.
Right.
Because it's this tolerance, this so-called political correctness, that's causing us to be in the trouble we're in.
I agree.
The Supreme Court of the United States, if you trace the history of their decisions, you'll find that it was that branch of our three-part government system that has been used to completely turn around the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. Because Supreme Court decisions up until about the beginning of the 20th century all consistently showed that not just religion, but Christianity and Christian thought was the whole basis of our government system.
Exactly.
And as a matter of fact, the preamble to the Declaration of Independence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created by their Creator with, three basic rights, that is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, you remove belief in the Creator, and we have no basis for our government.
Exactly.
Because it's built on the assumption that there is a supreme God to whom man is answerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we are given freedom and we're given liberty by God that we're citizens and not subjects. All other countries say you have liberty because it's granted to you by your government. That makes you a subject.
Mm-hmm.
We say that we have liberty because it's an inalienable right given to us by God, our Creator. Now you start removing that foundation and the whole system of government that has made the United States a marvel in the history of governments, that begins to fall. And I think it's evident today in the stock market and the problems we have in our corporations. Our economic system, which has been the best that the world has ever seen, has worked because it was built on the assumption that the average citizen will be honest and have integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the minute the average citizen does not have integrity and is dishonest, our economic system won't work. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. It's because of the dishonesty of CEOs and officers of our corporations that the whole stock market and the faith in our political system is falling. Because our political system is based on faith and honesty.
Exactly. What this may be a simple question or simplistic for you and me, but there may be someone listening this morning that needs to hear this. Are we living in the last days, Hal?
Well, I believe that we're not only in the last days, I believe we're at the very end of the last days, the time when it's all about to come to a climax.
Mm-hmm.
I've been studying Bible prophecy since 1955. And in all those 47 some odd years, I have seen a precise scenario of events that the Bible predicted would come together just before the climactic war of the world that'll involve the whole world and the return of Jesus Christ to stop it. And I see all of those signs here right now. They've all come together in one time frame, just as the Bible predicted they would, and that's what makes this time unique.
Mitch here in town, I sent in a question. We've been promoting your visit here on the show for a long time.
Yeah.
Ask whether there's anything in the Bible that may signal the beginning of the tribulation period in the event of 9/11. A neighbor the other day, and this is what he wrote, said he had heard some teacher on prophecy say that he had found a reference in the book of Revelation dealing with a 9/11 event. Do you see anything in light of Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation that coincides with what happened on September the 11th?
No, I don't. I think 9/11 is part of a very general movement of history to put it into the framework that the Bible predicts will happen. And it is simply this. As you look at the alignment of nations that will exist just before the return of Christ, you find there are basically four spheres of political power, all revolving around a reborn state of Israel that is under constant threat by its neighbors, and they're all Muslim today. And as you look at the leader of the West, it's very clearly predicted as being a consortium of nations that rise out of the ruins of the old Roman Empire, 10 nations that will rise out of the old Roman culture and people, and the capital will once again be Rome. So it's going to be basically a European power that has its capital in Rome that will rule the West and then the world. Now, the United States has been the leader and the great power of the West since World War II. But there's no place for it in this scenario that's going to immediately precede the return of Christ. So that means something catastrophic has to happen to the United States. I believe 9/11 was the first of that of a series of events that's going to cause the United States to lose power, and it will shift to Europe.
So you're saying you believe that other catastrophic events will be taking place?
Yes, I believe they're inevitable. And I'm not just speaking out of Bible prophecy there.
Yeah.
I'm speaking out of what all of the intelligence community is saying. As a matter of fact, let me give 3 quotes here from people that are well known. Vice President Dick Cheney, May the 19th this year, said, "The prospect of another attack against the United States is just as real as it was on September 12th. It's not a matter of if, but when."
All right.
And then FBI Director Robert Mueller said on May 20th, 2002, "There will be another terrorist attack. We will not be able to stop it. I think we will see a walk-in suicide bomber in the future. I think it's inevitable." And Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld said May 21st, 2002, "Terrorist networks have relations with terrorist states that have weapons of mass destruction, and they will get their hands on them, and they will use them against us," end quote. So, these are 3 of our highest authorities here in the United States, and they're all saying it's not a matter of if, it's when.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable, and we won't be able to stop it, and they will use weapons of mass destruction. Now, that's all bad news, and I believe the good news is that those who have come to know Jesus Christ personally and accepted the gift of pardon He died to make free to us. Yeah, and I was just saying that's bad news, but the hope is that for all of those who have come to a personal knowledge of Jesus Christ and accepted the gift of pardon that He died to give us, that we will be delivered out of this catastrophic period before it reaches a global proportion, and that's what we call the tribulation. I believe Christ will come and miraculously snatch out every living believer before those fateful events happen.
Some Bible teachers teach that there are no scriptures to be fulfilled before the rapture takes place.
Yes.
What is your opinion on that?
Well, I believe they're right. There isn't anything that needs to be fulfilled before it could happen, but it's kind of like when Thanksgiving is approaching, you see all the Christmas decorations going up. So I always say, when I see the Christmas decorations going up in the mall, I say, "Oh, Thanksgiving must be very near."
True. You see the signs.
Yeah, because even though there were no decorations that had to be put up for Thanksgiving, if you see Christmas decorations being set up, we know that Thanksgiving is more near than Christmas is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same way it is with the rapture or the coming of Christ for the church. Even though there were no signs needed for this to happen, it could happen at any time, we're already seeing the signs of the second coming, which is later. So the fact that they've all come together before our eyes shows that the rapture must be even closer.
Now, he says no man will know the date or the time, but you can know the season, correct?
That's right. He said no one would know the day or the hour.
Day or the hour, that's correct.
But he commands us to know the generation.
Right.
Jesus gave a bunch of signs. In fact, if we couldn't know anything, why does the Bible give us signs?
True.
It
True.
gives us all kinds of signs of his coming. And the reason he does that, Jesus sums up in Matthew 24, verses 32 through 36, where he says, "Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its leaves first become tender, or its limb first becomes tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near."
Mm-hmm.
Well, the point of that parable is how to know the general time of summer is near. You know by the first leaves on the fig tree.
Right.
And then he makes a direct application. He says, "Even so, when you see all these things," and these things are first all the signs he has just given about his coming. When you see all these signs, in other words, then he gives a command, "Recognize I am at the door." And then he gives the application, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things are fulfilled." Well, what generation? Well, in context, it's the one that would see all the signs.
Right.
And we're the generation that is seeing all those signs. So we are that generation.
How close do you think we are, Hal?
Well, you know, I've seen these signs go into this specific pattern very clearly, beginning with 1948.
Right. The
Because-
rebirth of Israel.
Because nothing was relevant as far as prophecy about the return of Christ until Israel was reborn as a nation. All
Right.
the prophecies about his coming assumed that they would be returned from this long dispersion and be back in their land again. And beginning with that time, all of these signs began to fit into the exact pattern that was predicted. So this has been going on for a long time now. And so I believe that we must be very, very near.
Oh, man.
I've seen all of this in my lifetime. I'm 72 years old. I was 18 years old when Israel was reborn. And if I live my normal life expectancy, I expect to see Christ come for me.
Praise God. Peace, peace, there will be no peace until the Prince of Peace returns.
Exactly.
Hal Lindsey, I want to tell you, this is the 30 minutes that you and I have spent together is going to be a keepsake of mine for a long, long time.
Oh, bless you. I've enjoyed being with you.
Your book is entitled, your latest book, you've written so many, I believe I misquoted a while ago. I said that you had authored 11 books. It's 22, actually, isn't it?
Right. This is the 22nd one. It's
And-
called The Everlasting Hatred, The Roots of Jihad. And I'm really asking Christians to help me because I'm asking them to go to their bookstore and ask them to order it, because the information in this book needs to get out to help the United States really see what we're up against, and also to help Israel survive.
Most
Because I
definitely.
believe, frankly, the information that's in this book is so vital that it needs to get out there immediately.
I agree. It is a wonderful book, and they can also go to your website, hallindsey.com.
Yes, and
And-
they can also call my ministry.
Right.
1-800-Titus-35, Titus-35.
I talked to a guy last week, and he said, what is Hal Lindsey's, because when we played the America One Nation Under God, he said, I want to call and get some tapes. I said, call 1-800-Titus-35, and he said, like in the Bible? I said, exactly.
That's right.
Hal Lindsey, thank you again so much for being with us. We look forward to seeing you in Eupora, Mississippi later in the year.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.